In this video, we're going to talk about a pressing issue that is running rampant in Overwatch 2 right now that is one of the biggest problems with the game, and it's the throwing problem, where players are throwing right now more than ever, intentionally throwing games. I want to talk about what causes this, why this is, and why Blizzard needs to fix this as soon as possible. But do me a huge solid and smash that like and subscribe if you enjoy the content, and let's jump right in. Now, I've been witnessing a absolutely rampant amount of throwing in Overwatch as of late, and this is even all the way up to the highest ranks of play in Grandmaster 1. We are getting a lot of players that just simply aren't even trying anymore, and I know from everything I've seen that it's happening at every single rank. And I'm not just talking about situations where people play poorly, or they don't swap when you want them to swap, or they're just not playing like an appropriate pick for a certain matchup. I'm talking about players legitimately not even trying and just throwing a game outright for any number of reasons or no reason at all. And there's several things that are actually creating this problem. The first one is we are towards the end of season, and a lot of players are playing on ult accounts and are just simply not trying as hard as they normally do, or even going as far as outright throwing. So you have players that just generally don't care nearly as much. But this is really a problem that has always happened, where towards the end of any given season and even the start of any given season, the games are less competitive than normal because people are more likely to be grinding their mains. But this is a different problem, because the reason for the rampant throwing right now is specifically because players' faith in the rank system is just non-existent. While we had that huge time period where players would get placed with people that were vastly different ranks apart, and then people climbed and fell with that system, then we saw a couple of corrections where things are more or less relatively normal now. Like, there's not that huge discrepancy, at least not nearly as much, but players are falling and rising in a constantly changing system. The constant talk of quote-unquote ranked inflation has people feeling like imposters in their own rank, and everyone's accusing everyone else of being boosted. And honestly, even in the highest ranks of play, the game just doesn't really feel that competitive. Like, there's not that much communication, simple mistakes are being made, one tricks are rampant, and it does really nothing to compare to like a scrim experience. But how did we get here, and what can Blizzard do to rectify the situation? Well, going first to that quote-unquote rank inflation problem, one of the big things that Blizzard said is that everyone's rank should have been higher, and there was a bug keeping everyone's rank lower, so they got rid of that at the same time that there was all these rank disparity problems that happened. So it caused everyone's rank to get pushed up, and it also caused everyone's rank to be vastly different from one another within the same game. And when you combine both those things at the same time, you have players shooting up in rank, even if that's where they should be. You really can't do that at the same time you create a expanded amount of grouping, right? It doesn't make any sense to do both of them at the same time, because then all players see is tons and tons of diversity in ranks in their games and players shooting up in ranks out of nowhere. It just doesn't make any sense. If it was a bug that happened and there was a bug that was keeping players in a lower rank than they should be, they probably should have just readjusted the system around that. If I'm being honest, that makes a lot more sense than having a system that has zero transparency, often fluctuates players in rank, often fluctuates the disparity between players within the same team, and all of that is just gonna overall lead to people just caring less about ranks. They don't think their ranks are valid, they don't think the ranks of players around them are valid, they don't trust the skill level of players around them, nor do they even believe in their own skill, and it just causes no one to believe in the damn rank system. So of course, you're gonna get less and less people caring, less and less people wanting to grind, less and less people wanting to climb, and more throwers overall. That's what the system has created. And this all compounds with it being at the end of the season. You have all these problems where people just think that ranked is silly, and ranked is like quick play plus, or maybe even quick play minus, and then you add that into the end of the season where people already really have a tendency to not care. It's just making the whole thing very uncompetitive, and I'm not entirely sure when it's going to end. I know that the new season comes out and people will probably go back to playing on their mains after a while, but the longer and longer things go on, the more and more I feel like players just don't really care. Like, perhaps they used to care. Perhaps they used to care in Overwatch 1. Perhaps they care about other rank systems in other games. The Overwatch 2 rank system is looked upon more like a joke than I've seen just about any rank system. And that's really, really bad for the longevity and healthiness of the game. If people don't care about competitive and they're more prone to throwing, and you create an environment that doesn't have enough competitive games to wash away from the experience of people just not even trying and not even caring, then you have a real big problem. I mean, just in the freaking past couple of days, I had a GM tank player say, if everyone's not in comms, I'm gonna throw, proceeds to throw, and even when everyone joins comms, he doesn't even talk. I've seen other players just obviously throw the game, not care, balls rolling around the map that don't do any damage. I've seen people that just throw over the simplest things, like they're playing on an alt, someone criticizes them or says, hey, can you play this character? And they're like, fuck you, I'm throwing your elo. You see that all the time. And it seems more and more and more that players just don't really care all that much. And perhaps this is some of the consequences that we have from getting rid of the mobile phone system. I know that that was a heavily disliked system. Players didn't like it, but you have to admit at the very least, it forced people to play on accounts that they actually care about, and a lot of these like problems that are popping up would probably happen a lot less. But still, even still, I think that the fundamental problem here is just the distrust in ranked, the lack of caring about ranked, and in order to fix this problem, Overwatch needs to start back with square one. I honestly think that they should restart the entire rank system, start it fresh, start it with transparency, and go from there. But I know that they're probably not going to do that. From here on out, though, I think we just need time. We need time to stabilize the system. It's going to be the first season that doesn't have a ranked reset, so we can see things kind of settle. And perhaps enough time in the current rank system will not only allow people to settle in their ranks, feel comfortable in their ranks, but we will see less ranked changes that will have an impact over the rank movement overall. And maybe this will be a season that things get a bit better. And also we get a little bit of loss tracking progress. But all in all, I think that this throwing problem is something that Blizzard needs to solve as quickly as possible, because it doesn't make any sense for having a game that has a large population of people throwing, even if it's towards the end of the season. That's not an excuse. Throwing should be something that doesn't happen nearly that much in your game. But maybe I'm overblowing this whole situation. Maybe there isn't actually a throwing problem, and maybe in your games you don't get that many throwers. But I really want to pass the question off to you. State the ranks that you play and your problems with actual throwers. And I don't mean like people that are playing poorly. I mean like actual legitimized throwers that are like hashtag throwing for whatever. Because I think this problem is much more rampant than it's ever been in the history of Overwatch. And it's a bit concerning as someone who really loves competitive and wants it to be, well, competitive. Anyways, thank you so much for coming by. Hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.